Now, who's gonna run this meeting? The
I think
president
that
is-
technically Ms. Baldwin is,
Oh,
and at least up until the voting is over for the new chair and vice chair position.
We're gonna call to order the BZA for August 11th, 2026. Roll call.
Brandy Ford,
Here.
Andrea Baldwin,
Here.
Cam Paddock.
Here.
All right. First item is election of officers.
Does that have to be done tonight? I guess the question for our attorney here.
I would-
We have a full committee.
I would do it tonight just to prevent any future problems. It does not have to be. We can do a temporary chair until we have a full 5 members. That's at your guys' discretion. But I would elect at the very least a temporary chair and a temporary vice chair. And if you guys would like to have another election when we have a full 5 members, that's perfectly acceptable.
Okay, let's do that. Yeah, I agree with that. Make a motion to elect it.
Can you guys hold for just a minute? Thank you. I just.
Mine.
I wouldn't even think it's been a while since we've met.
I know it has.
Okay.
Okay, Cam, go ahead, Cam.
I make the motion to elect a temporary chair and vice chair until a full committee has been named at a later date.
Need a second, anybody?
Oh, I'll second. Oh, sorry.
Out of practice.
Yep. Like I said, I grabbed.
Who seconded? Did you get that, Brandy?
Yeah.
Brandy,
Yes.
Andrea,
Yes.
Cam,
Yes.
now you need to elect.
Submit any nominations.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's that clueless.
Submit any nominations.
I will nominate Cam. For chair.
Temporary.
Temporary. Why are you leaving me?
Yeah.
Okay.
I wouldn't do that to you.
Second it? Second it?
Are there any other nominations? Cam,
Yes.
Andrea,
Yes.
Brandy. Now a vice chair? I'm take nominations for a vice chair.
Make a motion to nominate Andrea as temporary vice chair.
I'll
Do
second
that,
that.
Brandy, on her first.
I know. I got it done with me.
Are there any other nominations?
No.
Cam,
Yes.
Andrea,
Yes.
Brandy.
Yes.
Okay, it's all you, Cam.
So next order is old business, which none, according to our agenda, is that correct?
Mhm.
So next after that would be new business.
Yes.
Item 1 is a first reading for rules and procedures amendment. The staff has prepared an amendment to the rules and procedures to swap the order of the petitioner and staff presentations.
Yes. Well,
Do I need to read that? Sure.
maybe you didn't get the most recent agenda, but there's one item before that.
Oh. That's what I pulled up, sorry. It might be another. Oh, yep, I got it. Okay. Sorry, rewind. New business, item 1, meeting calendar for the rest of 2026. Staff would like to confirm that the meeting dates listed on the calendar will still work.
Yeah, so since we're down to this bare bones crew and we need everybody to be here. I just wanted to make sure that that first Thursday for the rest of the year still works. Because I know it didn't work this month and
Yeah.
September.
I mean, yeah, for us, the time being, it works for me now. I mean, we've done a good job, I think, in the past to, communicate change as need be with plenty of notice. So, but yeah, I'd say we set this calendar for now.
Okay, so
Jeff, accordingly.
I make a nomination to accept the calendar for the remaining year on the first Thursday.
Second,
Cam,
yes.
Andrea,
Yes.
Brandy.
Our second item of new business is the now first reading for rules and procedures amendment. Staff has prepared an amendment to the rules and procedures to swap the order of the petitioner and staff presentations.
yes, we made a similar change to the rules and procedures for the Plan Commission. And I just feel like this is a better order of things. So the way this would work is, the way it previously worked is the chair would introduce the case, and then staff would give their presentation, their report, and then the petitioner would give their report. And usually the way that ended up was the staff basically explained the whole project and the petitioner said nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it makes more sense to have the petitioner present their case, have the board ask them the questions, then the staff can present their analysis of
Sure.
the case, and then the board can ask staff their questions. So that's that one. I thought I had in here as well. Maybe I missed it somehow. This will have to be another amendment at a later date, but the state made changes to the rules for removing Board of Zoning Appeals members. So we'll have to update the rules and procedures for that as well. But since I don't have that prepared, we'll have to vote on that separately.
Sure.
Per the rules, for amending the rules and procedures, any amendments need a reading, and then at the next meeting is when we'll vote. So there's no vote on that at this meeting,
Okay.
but that sets us up for the.
Yeah.
So that's what the state changed, to just give it another.
Well, no, so what the state change was similar to the one we did for the Plan Commission.
Okay.
Where now a member of the Board of Zoning Appeals can be removed without cause as long as either it's the same person who appointed them or the same board. If they were appointed by a board with all the members being the same, they can then also remove that person without cause. If they feel that's appropriate.
Do these changes need read aloud, or is it sufficient to say?
I think since I just described them, that's.
Yeah, a description by Marcellus is all that's required.
Okay. Do I have a motion to accept?
No motion needed,
No,
just a reading.
We're
Yeah.
just gonna read it,
You just said that. Yep.
Effectively, just putting the public on notice.
Yes, okay,
and then it'll be the next.
yes. Item number 3, adoption of revised BZA application form.
Yes, so I made a few changes to the application form and information sheet. Previously, the application only listed under application types only had variance development standards, special use, and administrative appeal. The ordinance always had in there as well a variance of floodplain standards, but that was not an option that was on the form. So I added that. And then we recently passed an amendment to the UDO to allow variances of use as required by the state. And so I added that option as well to the application type. And then with those, the previous application form had sections where the applicant had to respond to the questions that give you like sort of the findings that you have to like approve the variance or special use. And so I added those questions for variance of floodplain standards and variance of use, as well as adding a sheet for administrative appeals, because even though that was an allowed option, there was nothing in the application that like explained what you need to submit for that. So that's been added to the application. And then on the information sheet, BZA application information sheet, the list of required documents at filing, I just added a little note to clarify that the fee for an on-site hearing notice sign and the fee for the surrounding property owner address list is optional if the applicant wants the sign and wants staff to prepare the address list for them. So those are the changes.
And the flood zone is the one that the state passed recently that we looked at? Is that
Yeah.
what that one is?
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
Yeah, and that, the change here on the form isn't necessarily related to that because those variances were already allowed by our ordinance. We just
Right.
didn't have anywhere for somebody to say that this is what I'm looking for that
You
variance.
just added that to it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we can
Do
vote
they
on
need
that
a-
one
Yes.
tonight,
Yes,
right?
we will need a motion for
So we
that.
need a motion to
Are they updated?
updated revised BZA application form.
You made a motion?
No, I made the motion to adopt the revised BZA application form as submitted by staff.
I second.
Cam,
Yes.
Andrea,
Yes.
Brandy. Yes.
All right, item number 4 is BZA orientation. Staff will provide a refresher for returning members and orientation for new members on the BZA powers, duties, and rules.
Yes. So does everybody have a copy of this presentation that they can follow along with or access to one? I have a few extra copies.
Not.
Yeah, I have it on here.
Thank you. I know, mine was dead.
So I was hoping to save this for when we had a full board, but seeing as I think there might be some applications coming up soon for the end of the year, I want to make sure that the board we get this sort of taken care of. So you'll see the contents there. We're going to go over the duties, the powers, and then some important concepts, findings required for approvals, and then why do they list important concepts twice? I don't know. We'll see. So the duties of the Lapel BZA, these come from the state has ordinance or has regulations on what BZAs are empowered to do, and the UDO also has some say on that as well. So BZA stands for Board of Zoning Appeals. It's a quasi-judicial body, so it functions like a court, but it's obviously not exactly one. You all aren't judges. And it's governed by the Lapel UDO Volume 1, Section 6, consistent with Indiana Code 36-7-4-900 series. There are 3 main duties, and duties are defined as things that the BZA shall do, must do, according to law. And so that's hearing and ruling on petitions for variances, including development standards, variance of use, and per the Lapel UDO, variances of floodplain standards, hearing and ruling on petitions for special uses, and hearing and ruling on administrative appeals. Any questions on that so far? Cool. The powers of the BZA, These are things that the BZA may do, so you're allowed to do it, but you're not required to. May impose reasonable conditions and commitments upon variance and special use approvals. When deciding on an administrative appeal, the BZA may assume the powers of the administrative body whose decision is being appealed. The BZA may terminate a variance or special use approval or a granted administrative appeal if the person who is granted approval is maybe not complying with conditions or commitments, or the situation changes or we find out they were fraudulent or something like that. And the BZA may grant a refund of the application fee upon a successful appeal. And that applies specifically to the administrative appeal. Moving into some important concepts. First, we have illegal versus legal nonconformity. So a nonconformity is when a structure, use, lot, or combination of the three does not meet standards laid out in the UDO. So this is a building that's too small or too close to the street or what have you. Illegal nonconformity occurs when a structure or lot or use is built or established without proper approvals. So building something without a permit, establishing a use that is requires a special use permit without coming before the BZA and getting that permit. Those would be examples of illegal nonconformities. They are, generally speaking, the fault of the owner, tenant, or property manager and are subject to code enforcement. On the other hand, you have a legal nonconformity, which occurs when changes to the ordinance cause an existing approved structure or lot or use to fail to meet the new standards. So this would be something like, listed here, an old house that is smaller than the minimum area or an old lot that is smaller than minimum lot size because it used to meet the standards, but the standards have changed. So this usually happens at no fault of the owner, tenant, or property manager, and these legal nonconformities are usually grandfathered in under changes to the ordinance. While legal nonconformities are protected from code enforcement, they are not to be expanded, relocated, etc., as the intent is to require them to change eventually to meet the standard. Like we're protecting them. We're saying, you know, this isn't your fault that you're out of compliance, but we can't let you continue. We can't let you become more out of compliance or become out of compliance in other ways than the way you already are. So in Lapel, many applications for variances involve legal nonconformities, such as a person wants to expand a garage that was built too close to their property line, or you know, maybe building an addition onto the house on a really small lot, and so they're running into setback issues. Staff and applicants may use legal nonconformities on neighboring properties as arguments for or against a variance. So that just means that, you know, I might say in a staff report, you know, all the garages on this block are too close to the property line, and be, you know, kind of unfair to force this person to have to move their garage away while all the other houses don't have to do that. Legal nonconforming status allows repairs and maintenance, but not necessarily replacements. There are some kind of caveats to that. For example, a home that is destroyed that doesn't meet, say, the minimum area requirements, a person can rebuild a house that has that same footprint. But by that same token, if the house was too close to the property line, they wouldn't necessarily be allowed to build it exactly where the house was without getting a variance from that setback requirement. So
And they can't build bigger.
and they can't. Well, they could build it
But that
bigger
would be a variance.
to meet the minimum, but
But if it went over, you would still need a
right.
special or variance.
Yeah, so there's some shades of gray in there. The next important concept we have is hardship. So in Indiana, variances of use are intended to provide relief from unnecessary hardship. The Lapel UDO defines hardship as a difficulty with regard to one's ability to improve land stemming from the application of the development standards of the code. It generally results in property that is unusable. However, hardship does not include by itself financial or economic consideration. So it's not a hardship just to say it's more expensive to do it this way, necessarily. And it does not generally include self-imposed situations. So, you know, if you've developed your property in such a way that you've now painted yourself into a corner, it's not the BZA's responsibility to get you out of that corner that you painted yourself into. An applicant for a variance of use must be able to show that without the requested variance, they will face unnecessary hardship. We'll get to the standards for variance of use later. The next important concept is related to hardship, but this is practical difficulty. So in Indiana, variances from development standards are intended to provide relief from practical difficulties. This is a lower standard than hardship, though the Indiana code does allow towns to adopt the higher hardship standard for variances of development standards instead of practical difficulties. Our UDO defines practical difficulty as difficulty with regard to one's ability to improve land stemming from the application of the development standards of the code. You'll recognize that that sounds pretty much the same as the definition of hardship, but then we get into the things that sort of tweak that definition a little bit, which is that the property might still be usable, but following the regulations would result in a less practical development. So what's an example of this? Last year, there was a case where a person wanted to build a shed, and what the code would require would have had them build a driveway, to get to that shed or that garage, they would have had to build a driveway all the way to the back of their lot, and then like across their backyard to get to the only spot that was like open and available, without just tearing out all the trees that were in the back of their property. And it was staff and BZA's finding that that was impractical. So that's an example of what that might look like. Any questions on any of those concepts? All right. So next are the findings required for approval of a variance of use. In Indiana, the Board of Zoning Appeals may grant a variance of use only upon the determination in writing that the approval will not harm the public health, safety, moral, and general welfare, that the approval will not be substantially adverse to the use and value of surrounding properties, that the need for the variances arise from a condition peculiar to the property, that the strict application of the ordinance will result in unnecessary hardship, and that approval does not substantially interfere with the comprehensive plan. And all of the above findings must be found by the BZA to grant the requested variance. If even one of those is missing, can't grant the variance. I think most of those are pretty self-explanatory. The one that you'll see there, the strict application of the ordinance will result in unnecessary hardship, as we just talked about. The one that is even hard for me to kind of wrap my head around is the need for the variance arise from the condition peculiar to the property. This basically means that there's something about the property that is affecting the applicant in a unique way that other properties in the zoning district and in the town are not being affected. It doesn't necessarily, that doesn't mean that they're the only person with this problem, but it means that this is not like a general problem. That's kind of what they're trying to get at there. With variances of uses, it's admittedly even hard for me to kind of wrap my head around exactly what that means. It's a lot easier to understand when we talk about variance development standards. But fortunately, we don't get use variance applications very often.
Can you try to give an example of that? I know you said it was hard. You're losing me in some of these terms here, I'll be honest.
So, we did have the Maggart trucking case was a use variance. In that situation,
It had already been established.
Yeah, it
they had
established.
they had an established use,
Correct.
and but the new ordinance did not explicitly allow that use. It didn't explicitly prohibit it either, but according to UDO, any list that's not explicitly listed is assumed prohibited. And so they needed that use variance to be allowed to operate that use, and they also needed it specifically as well since that property is also where they were living. And so it was not just allowing that use, but allowing it to be a home occupation as well.
Thanks. You did better than you thought.
Only because we have that one case. All right. Findings required for approval, variance development standards. So there are only 3 determinations that must be found in writing. That the approval will not harm the public health, safety, moral, and general welfare. That the approval will not be substantially adverse to the use and value of surrounding properties, and that strict application of the ordinance will result in practical difficulties. Once again, all of those must be found in order to grant variance, and the BZA may impose reasonable conditions or require written commitments from the applicant that they find necessary to serve the above criteria. So maybe what the applicant submitted doesn't meet these criteria, but if they agreed to make this little tweak, it would meet these criteria. That's when you might say, we approve this under the condition that you do this, or if you commit to doing this. Then you have findings required for approval of a variance of floodplain standards. This comes out of Lapel's ordinance. There's nothing in the Indiana code necessarily about a variance from floodplain standards. Per the UDO, in order to grant this variance, the BZA must find in writing that first, the criteria for the variance and development standards is met, so they have to meet those 3 criteria first. And then they also need to meet that there exists a good and sufficient cause for the requested variance, that strict application of the ordinance will result in exceptional hardship, and that approval will not increase flood heights, create additional flood hazard or nuisances, cause additional public expense, cause fraud or victimization of the public, or conflict with other laws, ordinances, or regulations. Obviously, the floodplain standards are there to keep people's lives and property out of really high risk situations. And, so you have to have a pretty good reason to want to not meet those standards. And then once again, all of those determinations must be found. And the board may impose reasonable conditions or require written commitments. That's all of the variances. Are there any questions about any of those? All right. Findings required for approval, special use. So in Indiana, the Board of Zoning Appeals may grant approval for a special use, quote unquote, in the classes of cases or in the particular situations specified in the zoning ordinance. So we turn to the UDO, which says that the BZA may grant special use approval only upon the determination in writing that the approval will not harm the public health, safety, moral, and general welfare. Excuse me, any requirements and development standards for the requested use as prescribed by the ordinance will be met. That approval will not subvert the general purposes of the UDO and will not permanently harm other properties or uses in the same zoning district and in the surrounding area. And that the requested use will be consistent with the character of its zoning district and the comprehensive plan. So there's the things that are different here for a special use is that, like, a special use is a use that is allowed in that district, but we just want additional review of it to make sure that it's meeting a certain higher set of standards than maybe what might be, plainly written in the ordinance. We want to make sure that they're developing it in a way that the town really. We want to make sure that they're developing it in a way that matches the character of the zoning district where it's allowed. And so that's what those kind of last two bullet points there is. We don't want to approve uses that would seem to kind of contradict the intention of that zoning district or of the UDO more generally. We don't want to approve a special use in a location where it would cause harm to to its neighbors. And we just want to make sure that it's, like I said, consistent with the character and the intention of both the comprehensive plan and the unified development ordinances. Once again, all of those determinations must be found in order to grant the special use, and reasonable conditions and commitments may be imposed on approval. That's special use. Any questions on that? All right. Last of the findings required is findings required for approval for administrative appeals. In Indiana, the BZA may reverse, affirm, or modify the order, requirement, decision, or determination that is the subject of the appeal. What that means is if someone seeks an administrative approval, so some approval directly from me, if someone seeks an approval from the building inspector, and they think that we've given them a wrong decision for some reason, they can appeal that to the Board of Zoning Appeals, and you all will then hear their case, hear the administrative officials' reasoning behind their decision, and decide, if you think that that decision was consistent with ordinances. So Lapel BZA says that the BZA shall only grant an appeal upon the determination in writing that the decision of the administrative person or board was inconsistent with the provisions of the UDO. So an example of this would be if the administrative person or board didn't follow the procedures laid out in the UDO, did things in the wrong orders, missteps, or whatever that result in the person getting denied, for example, when they should have been approved if the process had played out correctly, or the administrative person or board failed to consider factors that were required they consider, or improperly considered factors that were irrelevant to the decision. So that would be another example of why their decision might be inconsistent with the provisions of the ordinances. Generally speaking, BZA should take the minimum action required to make the administrative decision consistent with the ordinance. So it might not be the case that this person would have gotten an approval even if the administrative procedures would be followed, but I think maybe a minimum correction would be to give them another hearing on that case following the proper procedures, for example. And if the person is successful on their appeal, then the BZA may also, in addition to granting that appeal, then vote to grant them a refund for their application fee for seeking the appeal. If the board thinks that that is the necessary thing to do. So that's all the findings required for approval. Any questions? Okay. So this next section is about the rules and procedures and all of that. So to kind of give a rundown, there's a full document available on lapelplanning.org for anybody who might be watching. You can go there and you can find the rules and procedures for both the Board of Zoning Appeals and the Plan Commission. But the Board of Zoning Appeals has the sole authority to adopt any and all rules under the relevant Indiana Code sections, and any and all procedures for the election of officers, the forms and filing requirements, and procedures for noticing for and conduct of meetings and public hearings, which we all got a preview of with the previous items. Rules may be amended by the BZA by majority vote of the full membership of the BZA. Amendment must be presented in writing at a regular or special meeting before the meeting at which it is voted upon, as we just did. Members with a conflict of interest, which I'll get to in a moment, may not participate in the hearing or vote as a member of the board. And then, just like judges, Board of Zoning Appeal members are not to be influenced in their decision-making by external pressure. No person may communicate with a BZA member before a hearing with the intent to influence their decision, except for staff via the staff report. Officers and staff. So this is just a quick rundown of the various officers. We have the chair and the vice chair. The chair is the presiding officer, and the vice chair acts in their absence or disability. Additionally, we have the secretary, who handles the agenda preparation and distribution, recording of minutes and findings of fact, and service of notice of public hearings. The rules and procedures also list a specific recording secretary, who is specifically tasked with recording of minutes. So the way we have things set up now is Teresa is our recording secretary, and I handle the agenda preparation, distribution, and recording of minutes, or recording of findings of fact, and keep track of notice of public hearings. Staff, which at the time currently is just the administrator. Well, sorry. The building inspector, and me, the planning administrator, are both referred to in the ordinance as the administrator. It uses administrator and building inspector interchangeably. So in most instances, though, I serve as staff for the BZA. Occasionally, that might include the building inspector as well. And staff just provides technical assistance via the staff report. And that's just to help guide your decision making. Attendance. Members are expected to attend all meetings. We generally only hold meetings when there is a public hearing, with the exceptions being any required meetings for administrative functions. Generally, actually, I think in the rules and procedures, it specifically says that the BZA must meet in November to settle the calendar for the next year, and then meet in January to do the election of officers and all of that stuff. And then, but other than that, we meet really when there's a matter to be decided. You'll receive an email with the agenda and a staff report at least 5 days before the meeting date. I try to do at least a week before, but it really depends on how beefy that staff report gets and how busy I might be the week before. For any business to be official, there must be a quorum. So if you can't make it, let me know as soon as possible so we can, or if you're going to be late, let me know as soon as possible so we can plan accordingly. And then failure to appear at 3 consecutive meetings is cause for removal from the BZA by the respective appointing authority. The rules and procedures state that the chair is responsible for promptly informing that appointing authority when a member is absent for 3 meetings. But staff can help keep track of that. Okay, public hearings. So members are allowed to visit, in preparation of a public hearing, Board of Zoning Appeal members are allowed to visit the subject property for an inspection. Members who have a conflict of interest shall not sit as a member or vote as a member on that particular matter. So conflict of interest is defined as having a direct or indirect financial interest in a subject property or petition, being biased or prejudiced or otherwise unable to be impartial. So this could be maybe the person who is requesting the variance or is requesting the action is a family member, or maybe, I don't know, they're your next door neighbor and the thing they're asking for is you think is gonna tank your property value, something like that. Those are things that might pose a conflict of interest, and members must fully disclose any conflict of interest during the public meeting. And then motions during the public hearing should include findings of fact and any conditions or commitments that are imposed. So, I move to approve such and such based on findings of fact presented, with these conditions and or commitments. The staff report has a section that sort of lays out that template. So you can kind of use that as a guide when you're making motions.
You do all the work for us. Yeah, we just have to read it.
Try to make it as easy as possible for you guys. And then vote is by roll call, as we've already seen. So the procedure here is based on, the order I've written here is based on the amendment that was read earlier today. So the petition is introduced by the chair, the petitioner gives their presentation, and then the board may ask them questions about their presentation. Then staff delivers their report, and the board may have questions for staff. And then the chair will open the public hearing and allow public comment. Once all the public comments have been given, then close the public hearing. The petitioner has the opportunity to make any closing remarks. And then the board members can discuss, ask additional questions, etc. And then there's the call for motion to conclude the case.
It gives them a chance. I do like this a lot better.
The public hearing may be continued by a vote at the BZA. So if there's more information needed before you want to make a decision, or maybe the hearing has gone on for a really long time, or there's been multiple hearings in one night, and everyone's getting tired, you might make a motion to continue the hearing. If findings of fact are not adopted at the time of final decision, they must be adopted at the next meeting. Like I said before, the motion should include the findings of fact, so there shouldn't, it would be a very rare circumstance that we wouldn't adopt the findings of fact at the meeting. Any questions on the rules and procedures so far? Okay. Okay, continuances. So the petitioner, an interested party, staff, or any member of the BZA may request that the hearing be continued. Do I have a definition for interested party? I don't. Okay, interested party just means that would most likely be one of the people who received the mail notice. I suppose it could really be anybody who cares about the case, but
Or seen it in the paper.
yeah, but I think most likely, in like the narrowest sense, would be those people who received the mail notice. Is that correct? Do you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And a request for a continuance may be handled in the agenda considerations portion. If the petitioner or the interested party makes that request before we get to that hearing matter. So additionally, it might be the case that, or sometimes the applicant will send me an email and say, hey, I'm actually not quite ready, can we continue? We still have, because the meeting's been noticed and all that stuff, we still have to come and meet, and then, in that agenda consideration section, I'll bring up, they requested that we continue, let's have a vote on it. And if you vote to continue, then we just move that hearing on to the next date. But you don't have to, it's a request.
Do you have to open the public hearing in order to continue it?
No.
Okay.
You do not have to open the public hearing in order to continue it.
If the continuation is not granted, is that automatically denied?
Not necessarily.
But that person in that scenario wasn't ready, so what would be then?
So I mean, so like if if the person said that, oh, I'm not ready, I don't have, maybe they're not, the case wouldn't be scheduled if they didn't have a complete application. So they've submitted everything that's required.
Okay.
But maybe there's a piece of information that they think would help them.
Okay.
But they don't have it. Sorry, the board said they don't want to continue it. We're going to hear it, and
Just as is.
now, yeah. So that's how that would work. I think there's also that's petition withdrawal petition. Okay. So that's all for continuances. Any other questions about that? Cool. So in addition to continuances, we also have withdrawals of petition. This is basically the person saying, oh, never mind, I'm just gonna take my application back. You don't need to make a decision on it. The petitioner may withdraw their petition at any time up to when a vote is called. As soon as there's a motion to make a decision on their case, they cannot withdraw at that point. Withdrawn petitions shall not be placed on the agenda for consideration for a period of 90 days from the date of withdrawal. unless by unanimous vote of quorum after a motion by a member. So if a person withdraws their petition and then they come back 60 days and say, hey, I'm ready to do this again, the board can vote at that time to allow them to their petition to be considered before that 90-day window, but you don't have to. You don't even have to call that vote. A member would have to make a motion. So,
Marcellus, if they withdraw their permission, that doesn't give them a refund for their permission.
no, it does not. And on top of that, if a person withdraws their petition and then resubmits it at a later date, it is treated as a new submission, which means they have to pay the application fee again. So yeah, it's not all of those rules are intended to make it so it's not a like, oh, I think I'm gonna lose, let me take it all back.
Yes.
And in addition to withdrawal of petitions, petitions may be dismissed by the Board of Zoning Appeals. So that could happen if it's outside the board's jurisdiction. It's not something that we're allowed to hear. Could also be dismissed if the petitioner fails to appear at the meeting. A decision to dismiss a petition is done by motion, or if there is no motion, the chair can, the chair shall rule. If the petitioner fails to appear, of course, the BZA may choose to continue. So you can continue or you can dismiss. If a case is dismissed, the petitioner will be notified in writing and have 30 days to apply for reinstatement. The reinstatement is at the discretion of the chair, and application for reinstatement includes repayment of the application fee. So again, we want to make sure that there's a penalty there involved with having the petition dismissed. Then there is, lastly, there's denial of the petition. So this is, the Board of Zoning Appeals says, nope, not going to grant you that variance or that special use. If a petition is denied, the petitioner is prohibited from resubmitting the petition for a year from the date of denial. Unanimous vote by a quorum after a motion by a member may overturn this prohibition period. So just like with the 90-day window for a withdrawn petition, if a member feels moved to shorten that petition period, they can make a motion. And then if the board votes unanimously to allow that person to proceed with their petition short of that 1 year window, then they can proceed and that hearing will be scheduled. Any resubmitted petitions after a denial will be treated as new petitions, and all documents must be refiled and the fee paid again. References there, just some links to the volume of the UDO that contains all this information, as well as the rules and procedures and the section of the Indiana Code. That's the quick and dirty of it. I think it's the kind of thing you kind of get feel for more readings you sit through, but
I have some of this on cards when I was
Thank you.
Yep.
Other business, I show we have none.
Mhm.
Nothing changes there. Any announcements that we have? Nothing there as well. All I need now is a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all.
Thank you, guys.
Good job. A lot.